Well, isn't it incredible that it's Noirvember's week 3 and that I haven't yet talked about Humphrey Bogart? Well, that is going to change today because we're going to talk about one of my favorites, and that, although is not yet perhaps a full-fleshed film noir, it is a terrific and fantastic predecessor. I'm talking about High Sierra, released in 1941, produced by Warner Brothers, and directed by Raoul Walsh.
Was it Red or Babe who revolted against the ruthless domination of Mad Dog Earl?
I'm giving you a chance to blow. If you decide to stick, I'll shoot the first one that don't do as I tell him.
Remember what Johnny Dillinger said about guys like you and him? He said you were just rushing toward death.
Human emotion, humanity itself, painted against the majestic canvas of High Sierra.
Last week, when we talked about The Night of the Hunter, we briefly covered the background of the Great Depression in the US. Another of its consequences was that it brought and made popular a different kind of criminal. Personalities like Dillinger or Bonnie and Clyde were new kinds of bandits who also had for the public a certain romantic aura, in a way much like the figure of Robin Hood. Thus, they were outlaws that audiences saw as heroes, refusing to be oppressed by circumstances or a higher power. And that is precisely something that High Sierra reflects on the novel and in the flesh of Humphrey Bogart's Mad Dog Roy Earl. It is said that film noir started, in fact, with The Maltese Falcon, released in 1941 as well, and directed by John Huston. High Sierra preceded Huston's film by a few months, but its impact on the genre, I'd say, is equally powerful. And in both films, you can see a shift towards the fatality that we have been discussing in previous videos, and also in presenting, yet again, a different kind of criminals. Characters that try in vain to redeem themselves. There is then here an evolution that would crystallize several years later, after World War II, in subsequent movies. In High Sierra, Humphrey Bogart plays the criminal Roy Earl, nicknamed as Mad Dog Roy Earl by the press. He's a mobster and a gunman who has just been released from prison. He is immediately contacted by an older gangster who is planning a heist at a hotel. For this yet again almost impossible endeavor, he will be assisted by Colonel Wilde, who is a clerk at the hotel, one of my favorite villains, Arthur Kennedy, and Alan Curtis. We have to obviously mention Ida Lupino, who is a woman that I, like many of you, I assume, I deeply admire, and I will properly talk about her in future videos. Also, we have to mention another actress in this movie, Joan Leslie, who plays the polar opposite of Ida Lupino's character, and even though she didn't reach the status of other fellow actresses, I think she does a very good job here. And to be honest, in every film that I've seen Joan Leslie, I have really liked her work and her performances. And a curiosity here too is that the dog part, the jinxed dog, who plays a major part in what happens to Roy Earl in this movie, was in reality Humphrey Bogart's dog called Zero. There are again many similarities with the Asphalt Jungle, precisely because both films were based on novels by William Riley Burnett. And in both cases we have again a heist, a doomed group of male characters who are set out for something that is clearly beyond their possibilities. A protagonist who longs for his childhood, for the land in which he grew up, and for freedom. Humphrey Bogart does a terrific job here in playing this character. He deeply understood, as he would do also with the Maltese Falcon, especially the ones he did in collaboration with John Huston, who in this movie is responsible for the adaptation of Burnett's novel. Humphrey Bogart at this stage was not yet the superstar he would become after precisely the release of High Sierra and the Maltese Falcon. He didn't make, in fact, top billing in High Sierra in favor of, for instance, actress Ida Lupino. But immediately after this movie, he would be forever the name before the title. Then an actor of Warner Brothers Studios, he fought tremendously to get the part of Roy Earl. He sent numerous wires to Jack Warner because he really wanted to play this part. The movie, though, was planned to be a vehicle for Paul Muni, and also I think George Raft was considered and approached for this part, but I have also read that it was in fact Humphrey Bogart who talked him out of playing this part, and he finally got what he wanted. He finally got the prize of being cast in High Sierra. Huge success here. Raoul Walsh, even though he's not a director that you would immediately link to film noir classics, was in fact a quite crucial pioneer for the genre, with movies like The Roaring Twenties, released in 1939, They Drive By Night, 1940, and High Sierra. The first movie that I just mentioned, The Roaring Twenties, starred James Cagney, who does a terrific performance there. Also in another role that also precedes all this doomed from the get-go characters. Humphrey Bogart is perhaps a more romantic anti-hero than James Cagney is. For some reason, there's again a romantic aura around him, and I think that is largely why he became the icon that it is today, the film icon that he is today. Raoul Walsh was a true cinema veteran who had started early on in silent movies, first as an actor, transitioning then into directing, with titles such as The Big Trail, They Died with Their Boots On, a favorite of mine, Gentleman Jim, The Strawberry Blonde, Pursued, or Distant Drums. He is also one of my most admired directors and one of the true masters in my opinion, because if there's something that I've learned from classic movies is that true cinema pioneers and masters always wore eye patches. In this case, cinematography was by Warner Brothers veteran, another Italian emigre called Tony Gaudio, who in this movie goes for a less expressionist approach and a more realistic, almost documentary-like photography that would also heavily influence film noir. He was much like Nicholas Musuraca, whom we also mentioned for the video dedicated to Out of the Past. He was an excellent, terrific cinematographer who worked many years at Warner Brothers. Along with Sol Polito, yet another Italian cinematographer, they would help establish, especially from the 30s onwards, the look for which Warner Brothers became famous. What I love High Sierra for is, aside from again Humphrey Bogart's terrific performance and Ida Lupino's, is how the movie is another example of the building tension resulting in a superb climatic scene. We have here also those fantastic open spaces that, especially towards the end of the movie, almost look like a Western, and in fact Raoul Walsh remake it in 1949 as a Western with Joel McCrea and Virginia Mayo. Alright, so that was all for today's video. I hope once again that you enjoyed it and that you find it interesting. If you have watched High Sierra, I would love to know what are your thoughts about it, what's your favorite part, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining me for this Noirvember challenge and for sharing the love for classic movies. Once again, Stay safe, take care, and see you all tomorrow with another video. Bye!